Welcome to another episode of the Giant Take podcast. Brian Daboll has been fired by the New York Giants. It took until 7:30 for our schedules to free up, so sorry this is coming a little bit later. But here we are. We're together. Alex, you cover the recap of the game against what I guess wasn't even was that the determination? I feel like every single week we talk about, oh, this game was the end of the Brian Daboll head coaching era. Oh, was the 49ers? Oh, maybe it was the second game against the Eagles. Oh, that Broncos loss really sufficed for it to be that game. But it was after this Bears game, whether it was the final straw or not, I have no idea. But Brian Daboll is fired in week 9 of the NFL season. Alex, along with Josh here. I'm Josh. He's Alex. Alex, how are you? What are your reactions to the news?
Yeah, no, I mean, doing all right. I think they got it wrong. Not in terms of firing him, but the bigger news is not completely cleaning house, right? Joe
Right.
Schoen is gonna stay on as general manager, and then of course we'll be in the process of coaching or hiring a new coach, excuse me. And that's the biggest mistake they could have possibly made. They might as well have just kept Dable around at that point if they were planning on keeping Joe Schoen, because to be honest, they very much felt like a package deal. And in terms of a player evaluation standpoint, it honestly felt a lot of the time that the guys that Dable was really, really pushing for, Malik Neighbors, Jackson Dart, guys like Cam Scadaboo, who were more, at least based on the reports, right, more Dable guys rather than Joe Schoen guys, and to see like the guys that have been, I guess, hit on per se being more his guys, and he's the one who's getting fired. Of course, he was inept at coaching, which definitely means he is, deserves to be fired. But the fact that Joe Schoen got a free pass in this when he is an equal, if not even bigger culprit than Brian Daboll is just astonishing to me. And this franchise is, a joke because they cannot do that. It makes no sense. No one in their right mind would do that. Joe Schoen has proven absolutely nothing so far. He's been a inept talent evaluator. He has been a terrible roster manager. And those are the two main things you're looking for from your GM, and he's been absolutely awful at that. So to trust him in finding a new coach and now doing this cycle all over again, right? Jerry Reese was still around. Dave Gettleman, they kept around for a second coaching search, and now Joe Schoen for a second coaching search. It really feels like the Giants have not learned their lesson whatsoever. And it's, I really, really hope I'm wrong, but it just does not seem like a good situation. And I think the Giants 2 years down the line, we're going to be sitting here, November 10th, 2027, and we're probably going to be saying the same thing about whoever's coach and say it's time to clean house. And John Mara is going to be still sitting there saying, this or that, or, this wasn't up to my expectations. Well, it's time to fully clean house, including, all the front office people that have been dead weight there for years, who have been, not competitive enough in terms of their front office talent, right? We're talking about talent on the field, off the field as well. Our front office has not been up to par with those in our division, and certainly those in the rest of the NFL.
I'll get to that stuff in a second in regards to Joe Schoen staying on the staff, but I want to fully complete Brian Daboll's time with the New York Giants before we get to that. His final regular season record with the team 20-40-1, 1-1 in the playoffs. That playoff run, they won a wild card game. I was going to say, well, lack thereof. They did win a wild card game. Came in 2022, his first season with the Giants, his best season with the Giants, with a 9-7-1 record. Really turned a team that wasn't a playoff team into one, brought them into the playoffs, had them beating the Vikings in the wild card round, and then won the AP NFL Coach of the Year. And in that honor, Giants fans alike thought that this was going to be the guy. The following season, 6-11, and then it only trends down from there. 2024 last season goes 3-14, and in the 10 games that he coached this year. So sorry, it was after week 10, not week 9. My apologies for that. 2-8 record before he was fired. 336 was the record, like percentage wise, regular season winning percentage. That was the lowest among Giants coaches who led the team for at least 50 games. And that is Brian Daboll in a nutshell with the New York Giants. That's all the stats laid out. I don't see any Giants fans saying that he should not have gone, so that doesn't seem to be an issue. Everyone understands it was a matter of not if, but when. And when, apparently, the right timing to do this was now. I don't know if I completely agree with that decision, but again, I don't really care. At this point, the season's a waste. But now, maybe they did this for a reason, Alex. And the reason is, as we go to the new head coach, possibilities at least, Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator of the New York Giants, former Chiefs assistant coach, is going to help run the Giants offense and be the interim head coach. And I think this is kind of his sample. This is his test. Can he lead a football team? Because not only if he can, will he be getting offers from other teams around the league, but I think he might be getting an offer from the New York Giants, depending on how this goes. That's just my thought process. I think they're going to want to keep a guy that's surrounded by Jackson Dart, who knows the playbook, who set the playbook up for him in year one. And if they can transition that, just like, the whole reason that Mike Kafka became the offensive coordinator with the Giants was because, he had that track record with Mahomes. He helped develop Mahomes, right, with the Kansas City Chiefs. So can he do that with Jackson Dart? And now he really has the not only the offense, but the entire team at his disposal. So in these next few games to complete the rest of the season, it is Mike Kafka's kind of sample size here. This is his time to step up as an interim head coach and give your best effort. I mean, this is basically his job interview. This is his resume on the line for his future and what might become of it.
Yeah, and I think that's why it makes sense to make the move now, because you do get that chance to see Mike Kafka in action for a few weeks, and he would be one of the candidates that you'd be looking to potentially replace Brian Daboll with. So from that sense, it makes sense. I don't know exactly what you're going to see from Mike Kafka. Um, Obviously, it would be interesting to see if he
He
decides to
also
keep
doesn't
Shane
have all
Bowen
the
on.
weapons. They also don't have the weapons, to his disposal. Jackson Dart's got a concussion right now. We have no idea how long that's going to affect him. Tyrone Tracy and Singletary are your backs. You don't have Neighbors. You have a lacking wide receiver room, and we've already talked about the injuries on defense multiple times, Alex. But that DB room also paper thin. So he doesn't really have the weapons to do it either. So you have a team with low morale because you're 2-8. You have a team with a lot of injuries. It's a back-to-back combination that doesn't work out well for you.
I mean, I agree. I think, to be fair, what he's going to be judged on is not how the offense plays. And I know, it will to an extent, right? But it's more to see how can he manage an entire team, right? Obviously, he's been on the offense side of the ball. He's been calling plays this whole year. So, of course, the offense is going to be important, but how he kind of just manages, during the game, timeouts, etc., areas where Dable has struggled mightily, I think is going to be the important thing. And he's a young guy, not a lot of experience, so I think that is really where more of what people are going to be looking at is. On the other hand, as I was saying before, I think it'll be interesting to see if he decides to keep on Shane Bowen. I would imagine he will, just based off the fact that it's hard to find another DC mid-season, but that was also a fascinating part about it, that Shane Bowen ended up keeping his job till after Brian Daboll. So I think that's another interesting storyline to follow. I think whatever Joe Schoen decides here in the offseason is going to be a very, very interesting storyline. So there's a lot to watch over these next few weeks. Like I said, I think they've made a grave mistake with how they've approached this, not, firing Daboll, but with Joe Schoen. I think it's going to dig them into a hole that they don't want to be in. They have a lame duck GM, and it's just not a situation you ever want to put yourself in, especially when you have such an easy choice. And they didn't have to fire Shane today, right? They could have just not said anything. They could have let it ride out, end of season, with Black Monday. Shane's gone, right? I get it. You don't want to disrupt things mid-season. You don't want to disrupt the scouting networks and everything like that. But at least for now, to jump ahead and basically give him job security past this season by stating he'll be involved in the head coach search I think a very big jump that they did not need to take and they should not take. And, Brian Daboll deserved to lose his job, but so did Joe Schoen equally, if not more, as did Shane Bowen and all these front office people who have been just absolutely miserable at their jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to Shane Bowen too, as you said, that was kind of the two biggest pieces. Now the both Brian Daboll and Shane Bowen have been a problem. The bigger problem has been Shane Bowen over Brian Daboll. Same thing where both Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have been a big problem. Who's been the bigger problem? It's been Joe Schoen. He runs all the operations. Brian Daboll, of course, a coaching decision. I also think it's a factor, Alex, to think about that. Joe Schoen didn't want to draft Jackson Dart. He said, head coach Brian Daboll, this is your decision. I want you to make the pick. Who do you want as your quarterback? And he said, yes, I want Jackson Dart.
Allegedly wanted a Dunze over Malik Neighbors as well. And I think we can all see with our two eyes that that would have been the wrong call as well.
And then with Shane Bowen, again, he could also be gone, just like you said with Joe Schoen on Black Monday. I mean, it could certainly be the case, but it's a matter of we'll have to wait and see. But with one of the best defensive lines heading into the season on paper, Alex, and one of the best defenses in the league too, I think. Like honestly, I know the cornerback room was lacking, but the safety room was really solid, and the D line and the linebackers were pretty good. So I would say upper tier.
Yeah.
To
And
not
I
have
think
that be
that is
successful.
And what I'd say is I think that's the defense, right? That John Mayer is giving Joe Schoen is, hey, we got all these amazing players, right, on this defensive line. It's just the coaching has miraculously made it so that these guys now are terrible and can't get any pressure on the quarterback or, our cornerbacks can't cover. But, it's a very tight line to walk across and a very, I guess, niche argument to make. If you think about it, if you kind of look at all the facts, right, it's easy to say that. But then, you look at guys like Deontay Banks, who, Joe Schoen has drafted, or, plenty of other guys who, he's taken, after second, third round, Josh Azudu, who's been a complete bust, Evan Neal. I mean, he totally missed on him. So, yes, he's developed some, or he's been able to acquire some good talent, but if you look right now, our draft capital is pretty depleted with the picks we've traded for Brian Burns, moving up for Jackson Dart. The cap situation is not great until 2026, 2027. And there's not a lot of depth on this roster, right? You got a lot of great star power, on the defensive line, but, behind Dexter Lawrence, there's not a whole lot there in terms of interior defensive line stuffing the run, right? So it's a lot of big, flashy things that look great on paper. But if you kind of really go into it and kind of rip everything apart, you see that there's not a lot going on underneath all the shiny toys. And I think that's a big issue in roster building and, something that is on Joe Schoen in addition to Brian Daboll. And obviously, Brian Daboll has made some horrific decisions, which have gotten him fired. But it is, not a single fault game is all I'll say.
Looking over to head coaching candidates for possibly the future, if Mike Kafka does not stick around and become the head coach of the Giants, two names that have been familiar to Giants fans from the last search after Joe Judge was fired and Brian Daboll was brought in along with Daboll. Other candidates included Brian Flores, who I don't know if that would be the case that he would want to come back here. I believe he's the Vikings OC now. Sued the New York Giants.
Don't think that's happening. Yeah.
He sued the Giants over that interview process. We don't have to go through all the details again, but basically along the lines that he was like, okay, I'm coming in for the interview, and basically the New York Giants indirectly already had their eyes set on Brian Daboll and just brought him in to complete the renewal process.
Josh, all I'll
Luann,
say is the one name I did that's not on this list that you're probably reading, but who a lot of Giants fans were talking about last season or the end of last season when Mike Vrabel got fired, and of course we were like, well, should Brian Daboll and Joe
are you going
Schoen
to say
keep their
Bill
jobs?
Belichick?
No. I'm just talking about
Okay.
Mike Vrabel.
Oh.
And now you're looking at the head coaching candidates, right? This time around, you're going to read the rest of these names, but I'm pretty familiar with who it's going to be. You're not getting a candidate at the same caliber as Mike Vrabel. And if the Giants had decided to cut ties with Brian Daboll last offseason, maybe they could be having a New England Patriots type season right now, where the Patriots are 7-2, 8-2 now. And, Mike Vrabel, obviously one of the best coaches in the NFL, and they missed out on that opportunity. As well, it was rumored that he was interested if the Giants position opened up. So, that's also an interesting thing to think about, is kind of this cycle last year, at least in my opinion. There was a lot more stronger head coaching candidates. You look at Ben Johnson too, right? Who's doing well with the Bears, who just beat us, obviously, and probably lost Brian Daboll his job. So that is also something that the Giants may have really mistimed it here. But I'll let you read the rest of the candidates. I didn't mean to spoil everything.
So other guys that, again, last tenure of looking for a head coach, along with Brian Daboll, Brian Flores was one. Louis Anarumo, who's the Colts defensive coordinator, is one. I think he was the Bengals defensive coordinator at the time when the Giants were searching for a head coaching candidate. Another guy that I've seen on a lot of lists, Clint Kubiak, who is the Seahawks OC currently. Cliff Kingsbury, former Cardinals head coach, and now Washington Commanders offensive lineman. Matt Nagy, former Bears head coach, now Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator. And then two of them that I really just don't think are possible or are going to happen that are currently up in the air. Mike McCarthy, the former Packers and Cowboys head coach. I don't think that's going to happen. And then the other one, which I've seen rumored a little bit, and even RG3, Robert Griffin III, tweeted this out. Lane Kiffin, the Ole Miss current head coach, who spent time obviously coaching Jackson Dart in college, asking him for an interview, seeing what he thinks, and seeing if he'd be interested coming to the NFL level. I think the idea is good. I think the idea is cool. I don't see Lane Kiffin leaving college football, leaving Ole Miss for that matter, which, by the way, I mean, I'm sure the NFL pays a lot of money. I don't think some people realize how much college football coaches are getting paid, and their buyouts are one of the most absurd things you might ever see. And especially this year, and especially at SEC schools where guys are getting fired left and right. This is the first time we've ever seen this in college football. Or even look at Big Ten with James Franklin at Penn State. That guy is going to be set for he was already set, but he's making money by the minute, by the second that I was seeing. That is absurd numbers. That isn't even hourly wages he's getting per second. He's getting like $20. So I don't know why Lane Kiffin would want to jump from that level to the NFL. And you're also dealing with, again, younger kids, maybe easier to coach them. He might like the transfer portal. He might like the SEC atmosphere. You don't beat that in football, period. Yes, it's the NFL. Yes, it's the pros. But what the noise level and the fan level is at a place like Ole Miss in comparison to like MetLife Stadium and the New York Giants. If I was the head coach of Ole Miss, honestly, unless it's my dream growing up that I wanted to coach in the NFL, I feel like I've reached the pinnacle of coaching in football. That's one of the pinnacles. But Lane Kiffin's been another guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's possible. I think it's gonna be a wide ranging search for sure.
I don't rule out trying to get him an interview. Like, I don't see why that's definitely not a problem.
I mean, it's the New York market. I could see him being tempted. I think you're gonna see a lot more of the classic kind of coordinator options, most likely. And
another one I saw. Speaking of Kansas City, because we already talked about Matt Nagy. On the defensive side, Steve Spagnuolo, the former Giants defensive coordinator years ago under the Tom Coughlin era, who's still coaching, by the way, and doing it at a pretty decent level. Do the Giants bring him back and make him a head coach? I also saw that on the list as well. Has ties to the team, has ties to John Mara, but obviously doesn't know Joe Schoen at all. Like that,
Yeah, I really honestly don't know how they're going to go about this, because I think my sense is they're going to go for more an experienced candidate, a veteran in terms of, has NFL head coaching experience. I wouldn't be surprised to see Belichick, to be completely honest, if he, of course, gets bought out or, whatever he does, or I don't know what his situation is, but I wouldn't be surprised to see
year one.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a Mike McCarthy type coach. I don't think it'll be Mike McCarthy, but a guy who, has coached in the NFL for a while. I'm trying to think of examples off the top of my
Pete
head.
Carroll want to leave the Raiders?
Yeah, Pete Carroll. I all I'll say is this: I would, if I were the New York Giants. I don't know what it would take to do this, or what would happen, but if you could go around the NFL and just kind of call around to the Shanahans of the world, to the Mike Tomlins of the world, and see, obviously, there's been rumors about Mike Tomlin wanting to leave the
For
Steelers for a long
years,
time
though.
now.
For years.
It doesn't mean they're true, but if there's even a quarter of a percent chance, you go and make that call, because I think Mike Tomlin is if not one of the best coaches in the NFL. Your Shanahans, all these guys who are proven winners in the NFL. I think that's your first round of calls. I don't think you're going to get anywhere with that, right? Who the hell is going to want to, leave their great job right now and come to the Giants, who are an absolute disaster? But I do think that is the first thing you do, and then you go around and kind of do a deeper search. But if I know we're not on Madden here, right? So you can't just trade 2 first-round picks for Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin also has to want to come here, and the Steelers have to be willing to deal him. And there's a million different things that go into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they look down that path, because I do think it's a reasonably interesting job, right? Jackson Dart is bright, great defensive players. I wouldn't say great defense, but a lot of good talent. You got Malik Neighbors, you got Cam Scadaboo, an emerging offensive line, and you're in the biggest market in the world, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if someone would be willing to take a bite. But I do think they're going to go with someone more experienced, whether that is, the point, quarter percent chance I just talked about, or, a Pete Carroll type or something like that, right?
I wanted to let you finish your point. I was really trying to wait patiently. I
Oh
did.
no.
I'm shutting your Mike Tomlin thing right down because I hate hearing it,
A
because
fan
it's the same
no.
thing every year, every single year. Oh, they only went 9-7. Oh, they only went 3 games over 500 and they lost in the wild card. They lost in the divisional again. Mike Tomlin gone. Steelers fans don't realize how good they have it. Their team is still good every year. They still win a playoff game once in a while, every couple of years, every few years. And yes, a cycle might repeat, but you're still a good team. You're not like the Giants, who, 4 years in a row now have had a losing record, and by a wide margin as well. Like, it's not even close. It's not like they're 8-8 or they're 7. They've been really bad. Tomlin's not going to go unless he's fired. If the Steelers are like, okay, we are done with you, he's going to be done. I see no chance in hell Mike Tomlin decides on his own behalf that he wants to leave the Steelers organization. He's been deadlocked with them for years, as long as I can remember growing up, and I don't see him leaving that place anytime soon unless they make a decision in the front office that, changes their mind. And maybe that is the case this year. I don't know. I mean, the Steelers they're good. They're over 500 still, but there's a chance that they don't make the playoffs, and then
Aaron
maybe
Rodgers
we'll
is
cross
known for
that
making
bridge.
explosions.
He is, but I don't see anything happening in that regard. So I just wanted to shut that down because I could not. I needed to make that aware. Anyways, that is the update. Brian Daboll, again, fired by the New York Giants. I'm sure you know the news by now if you made it this far into the episode. Mike Kafka steps in, the Giants offensive coordinator, as the interim head coach for the rest of the season. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. He has a week, basically, to prep the guys for a game on Sunday against Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I'll be excited for that one. The Packers, they're looking like a good team. We're going to see how they fare actually in about a half hour on Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. So if they win that game, then I think the Giants will really be in trouble, because that'll show how good Green Bay is. So I'll be interested to watch that tonight. And then Joe Schoen, obviously still the general manager of the New York Giants, along with Shane Bowen, still the defensive coordinator of the Giants as well. Is that just kind of a placeholder because they don't want to fire Bowen until the end of the season? Is that a placeholder because they don't want Shane to be gone? But again, releasing a statement that Shane will be involved in the process of choosing the next Giants head coach alludes to the fact that he most likely will be continuing as the Giants GM. That's where we are. We thank you so much for tuning into this one. Alex is on X at Anorian23. I'm on Twitter at JoshChilba29. Our socials in general, the Giant Take Pod. You could find that on all the social platforms. That's all I got. Alex, any closing remarks, final thoughts on this New York Giants team and the future? I've had a couple of people ask me today, oh, what are your thoughts on Brian Daboll? Oh, what do you think? Whatever. I mean, it's big news. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the Giants fired their head coach, but very expected. And I wasn't really, it wasn't really a matter of if, but when. And I mentioned that earlier. I was in my biology class. It's like a 500-person lecture. And I was sitting there, and my friend, shout out my friend Cooper, texted me on it first. He texted me, Daboll gone official. And I was like, what? I checked Twitter. I see Jordan Ronon's tweet that he was gone. Then I texted you and my father. But when I first saw it and he sent that, and then I went to Twitter and I saw the graphic from Adam Schefter, I said, what? Out loud, trying like thinking in my head, but as a Giants fan, that went out loud. I think I had at least 4 people turn around and look at me, like, what are you talking about? So I just went, what? Out of like nowhere. So that was pretty funny. Anyways.
Yeah, no, not much else. I mean, it was an expected move, but not exactly happy with how they handled this whole thing, and just extremely frustrating. Yes, it's, I guess, good that they made the right decision at some point, but I'm really not going to be happy until this organization starts, getting out of this terrible whack. I don't even know curse that it's in forever, because it's just unwatchable at this time. So hopefully it gets better is all I'm going to say. But yeah, thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see everyone in a few days, I guess. Looking forward to Giants versus Packers with new head coach Mike Kafka.